Hey guys, Leroy here. There's been a lot of talk recently within our local club about waterproofing. I quickly realized that the majority of the members of our group either haven't waterproofed something or are extremely nervous about waterproofing their electronics. So what I wanted to do is put together a quick tutorial and show you guys step by step how to waterproof your electronics. I'm going to cover the materials you use to waterproof and actually go through and waterproof a speed control, a motor, a receiver, really any piece of electronics that sits on one of your remote control crawlers or any remote control car or truck, and hopefully show you guys how to do it so that you're not nervous doing it yourself, and so that you're not nervous getting your car or truck around water in the future. So I hope you enjoy. Tonight I wanted to show you guys what it is that we will be waterproofing and what I use to waterproof my electronics. First of all, I use Conformal Coating to waterproof all of my electronics. There are a couple of different types of Conformal Coating, but I have found that the urethane Conformal Coating provides the best coat and does the best job long term. As with any waterproofing, this is something that isn't going to be done just once. It's something that you probably want to do to your electronics once a year or once every other year. As the electronics get hot and cold, the waterproofing does break down, so please make sure that if you do this, that it's something that you do on a regular basis and that you include in your regular maintenance schedule. Something to keep in mind as you do this, that once you waterproof any piece of electronics, it does completely void your warranty. So on every one of these items, we're going to open up the case and we are going to expose the control boards for everything. So just keep that in mind. If the warranty is something that's important to you, number one, you probably shouldn't be getting into the water to begin with, and number two, doing this is going to void any warranty that's left on your products. The first thing that you're going to want to do with each of these pieces of electronics is you're going to want to actually open the case and expose the circuit board. For the speed control that I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to use a Mamba Max Pro. Now for the Mamba Max Pro, it has a sticker that actually seals the case, and you're actually going to need to cut that sticker in order to expose the control board. With this, it has a fan that's usually connected, a cooling fan. You're going to need to disconnect that, cut the sticker on each side, and then that actually, it has some tabs that actually allows you to pry the case open in order to expose the control board. So you're going to take the fan off, set it to the side, and you're actually going to pull the circuit board and the heat sink completely out of this lower case. Now with the Mamba Max Pro and all of these Castle Creations speed controls, the AE2 that's in your stock SCX10s and a number of other vehicles, you're probably going to want to remove this sticker because it's not connected to the top of the case anymore. If you're to use double-sided tape or sticky tape in order to stick this in your truck somewhere, because this sticker is no longer attached to the sides, it will actually, it comes off in time. So just save yourself the trouble now, pull that off and set it to the side. So I'm going to set the Mamba Max Pro to the side, and I'm going to move on to, this is a Rock 412. Now the process with the Rock 412 is going to be very similar to any other brushless motor. As you guys probably already know, you do not need to waterproof your brushed motors, but if you want to ever get your brushless motors wet, you need to waterproof the circuit board on these. And the process is very similar for each of them. As I stated, you're going to want to open the back side of the motor can, remove the plates, and this is actually a used motor. And what you want to do is you want to remove this circuit board. And that is going to be the only part to this motor that you actually need to waterproof. Next, we're going to go ahead and expose the circuit board on this receiver. I happen to be using Spectrum receivers, but the process is going to be the same on any receiver. I want to be careful when you open these because they do have some small alignment pins, and you don't want to necessarily break those. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside with our other electronics. The process for the winch controller is going to be very, very similar to that of the receiver, and once you see how to do it, it'll give you a good understanding of how you need to waterproof any piece of electronics. So I'm going to go ahead and take the circuit board out of the winch controller and set that aside as well. The last piece that we're going to waterproof is a servo. So there are a couple different schools of thought on the best way to waterproof the servo. I've combined a couple of the different methods and have come up with something that has worked very, very well for me. So that's what I'm going to show you. With the servos, there are each servo can be a little bit different. Most servos have at least one circuit board, but some have multiple circuit boards depending upon the type of servo. So you're going to want to do a little bit of research on your servo to see where the circuit boards are, if there are multiple circuit boards, and determine the best way to waterproof your specific servo. So with these high-tech servos and the Savox servos, there's and most servos for that matter, there's a primary circuit board that's right here at the base, and there's generally another circuit board built into the servo a little bit deeper. So with the high-tech servos, it's very, very easy to get to both of the circuit boards, which makes waterproofing very, very simple. So we're going to take this, we're going to set this aside with the other electronics that we are going to be waterproofing, and set the last of these pieces aside, because these are the things that we will not be waterproofing at all, that we don't need during this waterproofing process. The next thing we're going to do is clean the electronics. You are going to be most successful when waterproofing new electronics or very clean electronics. Any debris, any corrosion that exists on the electronics currently is going to compromise the process. It's not to say that the process won't still be effective, but you definitely want to make sure that the pieces that you're waterproofing are super, super clean. So in this instance, my speed control and my servo are both brand new. Those won't require any cleaning prior to waterproofing. However, the RC four-wheel drive winch controller has been used before, very, very lightly. You just want to make sure that there's no dust or debris on there at all. But this motor and this receiver have been used fairly extensively. So we want to make sure that those are as clean as we can get them. It's not a bad idea to use a little bit of alcohol when doing this, because it dries so quickly. It usually will not harm the electronics, but if you can clean it dry with a toothbrush or something of the sort, you're still going to be very effective. going to set those aside and begin the next stage in our process. The next thing you're going to want to do is create some type of drying station. I built mine out of PVC pipe and clothespins. I prefer allowing the electronics to hang dry. I've heard horror stories of people allowing their electronics to rest on tables and paper plates, and the polyurethane in the conformal coating will actually peel the finish off of tables and furniture and other things, as well as when you allow it to rest, you have the potential of creating thin spots in the conformal coating and compromising your the waterproofing that you're trying to do. The next thing we're going to do is actually coat the electronics. There are a couple of different ways that people generally coat these electronics. One, each bottle of conformal coating comes with a brush that's built in. A lot of people will just brush the conformal coating on. This works especially well if you are dealing with tight spaces or you don't want the conformal coating to get everywhere. The second method is to actually dip the electronics in the conformal coating. I actually prefer this method to painting it on. Not only does it provide a more uniform coating, but it makes sure that the conformal coating gets into all of the nooks and crannies, and it provides a better waterproofing at the end of the process. So this is really kind of the meat and potatoes of this demonstration, and I think you guys will see that it is a lot easier than people make it out to be. Once you've transferred the conformal coating into your container, you're going to actually take each piece, dip it in the conformal coating, make sure that it is covered completely. Sometimes it helps to have a little bit deeper container, especially for these bigger pieces. Let as much of the conformal coating drip off as possible. You can see how thick the polyurethane-based conformal coating is. It's one of the reasons people prefer this conformal coating to the acrylic-based. Once that's dripped off, you go ahead and hang the electronics up. Okay, each of the items have now been coated, so we're going to go ahead and leave these overnight to drip and dry, and in the morning I will put them back together and test them out. These electronics have all now sat overnight. All of them are dry to the touch and ready to reinstall. You want to make sure that they are dry before you reinstall them so they don't stick permanently in their cases when you reinstall them. Now the pieces are put back together and ready to be tested.